Hi everyone, welcome to today's session. My name is Anka and I will be your host for today, walking you through all the main features that SocialBee has to offer. Before we begin, let me also introduce my colleague Andrea, who will be here in the chat helping us throughout this session. And also, let's go over a few house rules. First of all, sorry about that. First of all, this session will be recorded, so you will get the recording later on. And yes, there is a Q&A session where you can ask any questions that you might have regarding the platform. So if you have any questions throughout this entire session, add them into the Q&A box, which should be somewhere at the bottom around there. If you add them in the chat, there's a chance I'm not going to be able to see them and therefore not going to be able to reply to them. So let's go ahead and make sure we add them in the Q&A box. Now, speaking of the Q&A box, and by the way, feel free to say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're from. Speaking of the Q&A and questions in particular, I've got one for you before we begin, and that is, how well do you think you know SocialBee so far? It's fine if it's a 0, it's fine if it's a 1. I'm curious to know if you think you know SocialBee or if this changes throughout this session, because I will ask this question again at the end of the session and see how we are. So right now I see a lot of 0s, 1s, and 2s, but I also see someone who's confidently sharing a 4. So that's great. Let's see if we can turn those into higher numbers. Okay, so let's see where you guys are from. Louisiana, the UK, London, San Diego, California, Texas. That's amazing. Germany. So people from all over the world, which is amazing. I'm not going to keep you waiting any longer. So let me share my screen. I have a second screen, by the way, here. So that's why my face is going to be directed this way. And we're going to go through the main features that SocialBee has to offer. So let's go ahead and share my screen with you guys. Let me know when you see it. You see it. Awesome. Perfect. So what you're seeing here is the dashboard in SocialBee. In case you're not at all familiar with SocialBee, the dashboard is the main place that you're going to see when you log in. It's going to be your shortcut connecting you to every single screen in SocialBee. So everything from editing your main menu, from your profile and things like that here on the top right corner, where you have edit profile, you have pricing details for the different tiers that are available, and we're going to go through those as well. You have your billing information if you're already on a paid plan. You have all of these things that will help you make sure that you set up your account correctly. You also have something called workspaces in here. And if you run an agency, if you are a freelancer, or even if you just have multiple projects that you're handling, like multiple businesses, you can separate those businesses into workspaces. So this will allow you to make sure that you grant access to different people, to different projects, and stick with keeping them separate throughout your use of SocialBee. So with that in mind, let's go over the pricing a little bit before we go into the features, just to give you a quick, brief overview of what that is. We have 3 main tiers, and that's Bootstrap, Accelerate, and Pro, and they come with a yearly option or a monthly option. The monthly option is the one that you see right now on screen, and the yearly option, it will basically give you a discount in the form of 2 free months. So you only pay for 10 and you get 12. The differences between the 3 tiers are mainly in the number of profiles that you have. You'll see that Bootstrap has 5 profiles available, Accelerate has 10, and Pro starts at 25 and goes higher into the agency tiers. Then the other differences are in the number of workspaces, with Bootstrap and Accelerate only having 1, and the number of users the same. Bootstrap and Accelerate only have 1 user, and then you can build on that with the pros. However, what happens if you need an extra user on your Bootstrap plan? Well, you have the option to have flexible, customizable plans by adding on users, workspaces, or extra profiles as you need to, so that you don't necessarily get forced to upgrade to the next tier if this is a better option for you. So that's the details of the plans that we have. And if you stick with us until the end, you might get a little surprise um, in terms of the plans that you can purchase. Now let's get back into the features to see how SocialBee does in terms of that. SocialBee is a social media scheduling tool. So if you're looking to schedule your posts on social media, this is great. It's going to help you absolutely. But SocialBee does not only do that. It's actually an all-in-one management tool for your social media, and it can help with creating content, it can help with organizing your content, it can help with scheduling your content, duh, and it can also help with analyzing your content once you've scheduled it. It can, once you've published it even. It can help with making sure that you engage with your community and keep that connection going over and over. So it's pretty much a well-rounded tool that can help in all aspects of your social media strategy. Now, that is if you have a social media strategy. If you don't, my recommendation is to start by building one. And if you don't know how to do that, SocialBee can help you with that from the get-go by going into the Copilot. This is an AI assistant that can help you build a starting point strategy. So it will ask you for a few things like your website, like getting details from your website to kind of give you a little more info here. So my company name is SocialBee, and then my tagline is going to, you know, we're not going to go into all of it here. Whoops. Yeah, I took too much. Oh, there we go. It absolutely found them on the website. There we go. Okay, so I rushed a little into typing that out. Anyway, so it's going to look at your website. It's going to pull up some information that you can then edit and make more detailed if needed. And then based on this information, it's going to suggest social networks for you to work with. If you already have social profiles connected to SocialBee, you'll be able to select the ones that you want from the ones that are available. So you'll see how each one of these is going to tell you why that profile is a good fit for you. And then you can select the ones that you have. I have this preset so that we don't waste a lot of time in this scenario. So once you have your profile selected, we're going to go ahead and generate content categories. If you're not familiar with the concept of categories, they are, think of them as content pillars. In this sense, it will help you organize your content a little bit better so that you have different topics, different types of content that you're going to rotate your posts through to make sure that your content is not monotonous, to make sure that your content is not boring and repetitive to your audience. Because in this day and age, if you end up publishing just promotional content, just, hey, buy this, buy this, buy this, your audience is going to ignore you. You're going to have to provide some value. Around 80% of your content actually should be providing value, whether it's entertainment or education, information, whatever it is, it should be there. So the Copilot will give you some content category suggestions. You'll see them labeled Copilot here, but you're also able to create your own. So if you have categories and types of content that you already know you want to use, you can definitely do that. When you're happy with the categories, it'll go ahead and generate content ideas for you. And these content ideas will have a caption ready and an AI generated image ready. So you can either use that image as is, if it's a good one. We all know AI can sometimes have an extra finger or so. But if not, and you just want to use it as a guideline, you can definitely do that as well. So you can see how it generates pieces of content for each category. And then it also, it takes a while, but it also generates images for each of these posts. Now, if you don't like a specific post, you can just click on delete on the trash icon there, and the content gets deleted, and that way you're not adding it into your oops, there we go. There might be a little error here with the AI. Takes a little while from what I can see. We're just gonna ignore that for now. It might just also be my internet. But anyway, so you can see the ideas. You can see that it's getting generated there. And then once you're happy with them, all you need to do is click on see and approve posts. And this will add your content into the categories, and you'll then be led into the content approval tab so that you can review the content and approve it if it's ready to go out. So in this case, let's say we are looking at a testimonial. This is a template, obviously, because we're going to need to add the actual quote from the client and the name and picture of the client. But let's say this one works. So what you can do is either approve it directly if it's ready to go out, like so, or you can just add a note to someone from your team to make sure that they update the post to what they need to be. So in my case, I'm going to use Andrea as my teammate. Let's say, Andrea, can you please update this with Nicole's testimonial? This is a made up name, but you know, in a real scenario, you would pretty much know who Nicole is. Testimonial and pick and then include it in the scheduling. So I'm going to add this note. What will happen is that Andrea will get a notification via email letting her know that I've mentioned her in this post, and she can come back to this specific post and then basically do the changes that I asked her to, which is awesome. It's great for collaboration. It's great to allow you to make sure that you know you're communicating with your team. It's great for sending feedback and so on. Now let's go back into the dashboard here really quick. If you don't want to use the AI, let's say you already have a strategy and you're not interested in using the AI to start a strategy in SocialBee. You'll have a few options here. Right off the get-go, in the dashboard, you're able to connect your social profiles. And as you can see, you have all the major players here so that you're ready to just add them all on. Including something called universal posting, which is a semi-automated way of posting for platforms that don't currently have an integration with SocialBee. So you can think Facebook groups, which no longer allow scheduling directly, Mastodon, Quora, Telegram, Reddit, WhatsApp, all of these are able to get connected to SocialBee. And what will happen is that you'll get a notification on your phone when it's time to publish that content, and you'll be able to work with it from there. If you want to change the time zone or something in the settings of of each profile, you'll have the social accounts tab, which will allow you to do just that. And then you'll have the rest of the features on the left side here, neatly organized in this bar menu here. So starting with the content menu, which is going to be the place where you're going to be spending the majority of your time. This is where you can organize your content, create your content, keep your content while you schedule it to go out. And there are actually two systems in place in here. One of them being the category system that I've showed you earlier with the Copilot. So you create your categories, you're adding your posts into these categories, basically allowing you to have different folders for your content and keeping it very neatly organized. The benefits of using categories in this way is not only that you get to organize your content better, but it's also that you get to schedule your content better. Because now, instead of having every single post scheduled out at a specific date, which can become tedious. Let me give you an example. Let's look at the blog posts category right here. This category currently has 42 posts inside. if I wanted to schedule these 42 posts for the next Wednesdays in a row until it's done, that would be a very tedious work to do for me because I would need to look at a calendar, figure out the dates for every Wednesday in a row for the next 42 weeks, and then come back into SocialBee and select every single one individually. And that can work, sure, but there's a better way. So when you're using categories in the scheduler, which is what I'm going to show you soon, you are able to actually schedule the category instead of the individual post. So I'm able to go in the scheduler and just say, publish a blog post every Wednesday at 9. And so the content in that category will queue up in a top to bottom order until they are out of content. So week 1 will be post 1, week 2 will be post 2, and so on until we reach week 42 with post 42. And then what happens? Well, if you add more content, then it's just going to keep going. If you don't, then there are two options. Depending on how you set up your category, you can either stop there and wait for you to add more content into the category or requeue the content, which is something that is great to use on content that's not time sensitive, like blog posts. So in this case, if I want to requeue and reuse these after the 42 weeks, what will happen is that I'll just have to enable the requeue for my category in the settings, and then it will loop back up to the top and start going through the posts again. And yes, you can even change the way the posts are getting sent the second time so that you're not ending up with repetitive content. That's something that you do in the post editor, and I'm going to show you when we get there. In the meantime, still on the topic of categories, another good thing about using categories is that you have these settings that will allow you to customize them very well. So for instance, you have URL settings that will allow you to add UTM parameters. They will allow you to add short links to your category so that you truly customize and track every single campaign that you have on social media. You can also pause and activate categories and schedule them as needed. On the other hand, if you don't want to use categories, for instance, you have a Happy New Year post and you just want to share it once and done, there's the content without a category section. This is basically a list of your content and you would just need to schedule it. So let's just use this post as an example. I would just need to add a posting time for this post in order to have it go out. I'll save this as a draft so that I can show you something once we get into the scheduler. But basically, this is what you need to do. Okay, so let's close this down and go back into the categories. Sorry, let me drink some water here. Okay, cool. So we have the categories. It's time to build on the content. And how do we do that? Well, you can create your content manually by using the post editor. And you have these tools on the left side here at your disposal to help you upload or just automate the content a little bit better. For instance, hashtag collections will help you save your hashtags into sets that are ready to use. You have bulk importing options for CSV files, links, or media files. There's an RSS tool that will help connect to your blog, and it will allow you to automatically upload any new blog posts that you have there into SocialBee so that you don't have to do this manually. There's a Zapier connection, there's a Make connection, there's a browser extension, as well as the content approval screen, which you saw earlier, which will allow you to work with teams a little bit better. And then there's the post editor. So this is what the post editor looks like. The version that you're seeing on screen right now is our new and improved post editor. It is still in a beta version, so we're still working on improving it. There's another version that's we call it the legacy version because it's going to get sunsetted once this is stable and ready to get used. But you can switch between the two for now, so you can choose the one that works better for you. I'm just gonna show you the new one because we are very excited about it. It has some improvements over the other one as well. So first of all, you're gonna see here on the left all of the profiles that you have in the in the workspace. You can select the ones that you like, the ones that you want to create the content for. And in my case, I have Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn selected. And you'll see them selected in here at the top as well. You'll then be able to just add your text manually in the text box. And this is something that you can do, or you can use the AI assistant to generate captions, to generate images, to customize your caption further for each one of your profiles, allowing you to make sure that you have everything that you need in order to make the most out of each platform. So let's start by generating some captions. You'll see that you have prompt templates organized into categories as well. So you can just go ahead and work with the ones that work for you. Or you can shuffle through prompts until you find something that works for you, which is something that I find myself doing every single time I need to brainstorm for ideas. If there's anything that you um, that you want to use often, you have your favorite selection, and this is something that will allow you to have quick access to those prompts that you constantly use. So in my case, I am a big foodie, and I'm gonna just use a breakfast recipe as the example for today. So I have the create a post featuring your favorite healthy breakfast recipe prompt here, and I want to use avocado. So I'm gonna fill in the fact that I want it to use avocado. If you want to create this in a separate language, you can definitely specify that. I would do this the following way. So I would say create a post in Spanish featuring blah, blah, blah. Or using British English versus American English versus whatever other preferences you might have in terms of spelling, in terms of dialect, in terms of things like that. Then you're going to use the tone of voice that you want, and you'll be able to see quite a few options in here. I'm just going to go for informational here, and you can choose the length of your content. So it can go as low as 10 words and as high as 2,000. My recommendation would be to get it around the 200 to 300 word mark. So somewhere in between there is great. You can choose to generate hashtags. You can choose to include emoji and how many options you want the AI to generate. And then you just hit generate and it works from there beautifully, I might say. We have our avocado toast recipe. And we can choose the ones that we want to use further. So let's say I want to use the one that has the actual ingredients for one option, and the one that is more story-like for the second option. So I'm just going to use those in my post. What this does is that it creates variations. And remember when I said you can reuse the same post without it feeling an exact duplicate of each other? Well, yes. You can do that by using variations, and you can do that either with the AI or manually, because you also have the option to add a variation there. So you're able to do both options and just make sure that you recycle and repurpose your content without it feeling like a duplicate. So now that we have two variations, we're also going to see anything that still needs to be done for these posts. So in my case, I have a post that does not have any visuals. So in the first variation that I have, I'm going to generate an AI image to help me kind of create a visual here. So I'm going to go ahead and use generate images, it will suggest prompts to use based on the text that I have. You can also create your prompt from scratch, but I'll just use the one that we have here. And basically you can generate up to 4 images at a time. So that's what we're doing. We're generating 3 images of avocado toast, and let's see what it comes up with. I'll use this moment to sip some water as well. This process can take a minute or two. So there we go. So yeah, you have to be a little bit patient with it. But basically, as you can see, the images were generated. They're quite good. And we can select the ones that we want and bring them into our post. You are also able to just upload photos or videos directly from your computer. You're also able to use Giphy. We have a direct integration with Giphy in order to use GIFs on the platforms that where that's allowed. There's also Unsplash, which can help you with royalty-free images. And there's also an integration with Canva that can help you bring in projects that you already have in Canva or create new projects directly in SocialBee. So once we have this, let's move over into the second variation so that we can just see what happens with a video as well, right? So I have a sample video here. It's not avocado toast, but it doesn't really matter as long as it's a video in this case. So I've just uploaded my video, and as you can see, I have now 2 variations, one with an image, one with a video, and I can see a preview of what this would look like on each profile. Now, what would happen if I wanted to create maybe a video on Instagram, but an image or a link preview on LinkedIn? Well, what you can do is you can customize your content for each profile, each of the selected profiles, by toggling it on from here at the top. So in this case, I'll just toggle it on, and now you can see how one profile is fully colored and the other 2 are grayed out. That's the profile that you're working on at that time. So for now, we're working on Facebook, where I can just change the video to a link preview if I wanted to, or change it from my feed to my reels to my stories and so on. The same thing happens on Instagram, where you can automatically change it into your reels tab, into your feed, including the reels tab, into your stories and so on. So customizing the post for each profile will not only allow you to customize truly the text and the visuals, but also access platform-specific features like the ability to share content to your stories, to your reels, like the ability to add a location tag to your post, or I don't know, where am I? Let's say London here, and see what it comes up with. Okay, so we've added London as the location of this post, like the ability to add a collaboration or a collaborator to your post, whether it's on a video or on an image as well. You can tag the user directly on the media file, and you can also invite them as collaborators as well. You can also tag a user directly um, in the post editor. So in this case, if I tag SocialBee, on platforms where tagging is available, you'll be able to do that. On platforms where tagging is not available, you will not be able to, and you'll get an error letting you know that that's the case. So yeah, there's a few things that you can do with customizing your content. It will help you make sure that you make the most out of every single platform's best practices. So once you're happy with your content, the one that you've created, the next step is to actually schedule it. And as I said, there are 2 ways to schedule it, either by using the categories or the direct scheduling dates. So in this case, you'll be able to do both. You can either organize your content in categories and use a specific date, or schedule the category and just add the content in the buckets like so. So in this case, I'll just use the behind the scenes category for this post because I don't want it to accidentally post. And by default, categories publish in a top to bottom order. So if I'm adding this to the top of the queue, this is the next post in line to go out. If I add it to the bottom of the queue, this is the final post to go out from that category. And then if I want to make it a specific posting time, I can do that by just enabling it here. So I'll just go ahead and add a specific time, let's say October 30th. You'll see how it automatically suggests the best time to post. You can use that, or you can just change it to the one that you need, depending on your preference here, and you can apply it like so. Alternatively, you can just publish it immediately by selecting Post Now, and that will basically publish your content as soon as you hit Create Post. So we're not going to do that. And I'm even going to delete the posting time here. Another thing that you can do is choose whether you want to requeue this post. This is a feature that I've mentioned in the beginning that is available on a category level, but it's also available on a post level. So even within a category that recycles, you can turn that off for one particular post. So up to you whether this is enabled or disabled. And then finally, the last feature in here is to allow you to expire your content either after it's been published a number of times. Say you have 2 variations and you want to publish each one once, it will just allow you to say expire it after it's been published twice, and that's one for each variation. Or at a specific time and date to make sure that you don't end up with an accidental Happy New Year post mid-July or something by mistake. So when you're happy with your content, everything is set up, you can either save this as approved or as a draft, which will mean that you're going to need to approve it in order for it to go out. And then you can just create your post like so. So this will save the post into the category that we have selected, and now we're ready to go ahead and schedule the category. In this case, we're going to go ahead and look at the scheduler here. I'm going to go ahead and skip the schedule setup and next posts. These are the same features that I'm showing in the scheduler, but in the old interface that's going away very soon. So that's why I'm showing you the new version so that you can get used to the new one, the one that's here to stay basically. So the scheduler, this is the place where you're going to schedule your content, either by using the categories or by using the actual dates. So for instance, if you click on an empty time slot, you get 2 options: to create a post from scratch, which will add the date and time that you clicked on, or to add a category to that time slot. Now, if you want to add categories to your time slot and have like a general overview for these categories, you can look at the overview tab over here, which is going to give you an overview of what's scheduled to what category, to what profile, and you'll be able to select the preferred profile here. So let's go for Instagram. And you'll see that I have 4 categories scheduled. I have engaging posts, promotional posts, educational posts, and blog posts. And you'll also see that there's a content mix graph here at the bottom that will allow you to make sure that your mix is balanced, that you're not oversharing something or undersharing from a specific category. So now that I know that this is balanced, it's super helpful for me to make sure that my audience has a great value in the content, but also a little bit of branded content as well through the promotional posts. If I want to add a new category, I can just click on the add a time slot post and then select the profiles. And let's say I want to include the behind the scenes category here at, let's say 2 p.m. Let me find 2 p.m. There we go. At 2 p.m. on Tuesdays. So I'll go ahead and I'll click Save Time Slot, and you'll see how it now added this category to my schedule. So with this in mind, I now have a full schedule for the entire week, or at least the working weekdays. And I'm able to see the content that's coming out from these categories either in a calendar view, which will show me which categories have content and which don't. By the way, this is available in a day-by-day view. It's available in a 4-day view, the upcoming 4 days, in which case you'll be able to see the upcoming 4 days and what's next in line to get scheduled there. And you can basically see where I don't have any content scheduled. So I don't have any content currently approved in the promotional category or the educational category, but I do have content in the blog posts category. So that's great. That means that I have to work on approving content probably by tomorrow. You also have a weekly view. Pay attention here to the fact that your week will start on today's date, not on a Monday. So it's actually the upcoming 7 days. And finally, you have a monthly plan that will show you what your month looks like. You'll be able to see everything that's upcoming for the month, and you can go back and forth in between months, in between weeks, and see what's been published in the past, what worked, what didn't work, and so on. You're also able to see this content in a list view, which will allow you to kind of have a different view on the content that's upcoming. And if you're doing Instagram, and this is only for Instagram, you will also have a grid preview showing you what your grid will look like, specifically based on what you have scheduled at that moment. So you'll have this in your scheduler as well. Now, we've created the content, we've created a strategy, we've scheduled the content. It's time to look at how content performs once it gets published. And you'll be able to do that in the analytics module. So in here, you're able to select a profile. I'll just stick with Instagram. You're able to look at a time frame that you want to. I'll just look at the last month. There are several presets available, and depending on the plan that you're on, you'll have access to the last 3 months worth of analytics, all time, which can go as far as 2 years into the past, or a custom time frame on the Pro plan. So let's just look at the last month, right? We're going to start with page analytics. This is going to show you how your page is performing. You'll see different metrics depending on the platform that you're working on. So for Instagram, you're seeing the number of posts, page growth, engagement rates, which are temporarily unavailable due to some changes that Instagram is making. You're also going to see reach, follower count, you'll see demographic info, you'll see when your audience is online so that you can make the right decisions and publish your content when your audience is there to see it. Next up, we have the post analytics, which is going to show you how your content is evolving. So you'll see average reach per post, the best type of content, the evolution of your post. So you'll see how much you're posting in the last month or last 3 months. This is actually a graph that is better seen for a longer time frame. So if I switch it to the last 3 months, now you can clearly see where there's gaps in my posting and when I was consistent. You're also going to see an evolution of your reach, which will help with making sure that you're looking at what outperforms everything that you publish and something that underperforms so that you can replicate what works and change what doesn't. You'll also have it all broken down into category metrics. These will be organized by category metrics or types of posts, as you can see here, with averages, average engagement rates, and the best time to post according to when your audience is interacting with that type of content. So that's very dynamic. You'll also see that each one of your metrics is compared to the previous similar period. We're currently looking at the last 3 months. So you'll see that there's been an increase in the average reach per post because it's in green, and a decrease in the number of posts that I've published in the last 3 months compared to the previous 3 months. So it's going to give you an idea of what changes you've made and how they affect your metrics in the span that you're looking at. Next up, we have the Insights tab, which is probably my favorite tab in the entire analytics module. This will give you the distribution of your content throughout the day. So basically telling you when your audience is getting your content. If you're looking at the yellow bubbles in here, this is my promotional category, right? Do you remember when it was scheduled in the schedule? So let's go back to this and take a look to make sure that we don't say anything wrong. So the promotional category is scheduled Wednesdays at 6 p.m., right? Going back here, Wednesday at 6 p.m. is actually here. And there's no yellow bubble here. So that means my content is not getting shared to my audience at 6 p.m. when I'm publishing it. However, I can see that my content does get shared on, or at least it has been in the previous 3 months, on Wednesdays around 11 a.m., which is true. We did for a while publish it on Wednesdays earlier in the morning and now have shifted into a later time slot. But I'm also seeing something else. I'm seeing people getting my content, and actually more people than on Wednesday getting my content on Tuesdays. So this is giving me an idea, letting me know that maybe my content is better performing on a Tuesday for this particular type of content, according to what my audience actually prefers and how they get it and how they interact with it. This is also the place where you'll see your top performing content in terms of top 3 categories, top 3 post types, and top 3 individual posts. And yes, you're able to see external content as well. You can see it right here. If a post was published outside of SocialBee, it will be marked with the external post label. If you want to bring it into SocialBee, all you need to do is click on reuse this post, and it will open the post up in the post editor so that you can work with it from here and do what you need to in order to use it up further. Finally, we have the post history tab. This is where you're going to see all of the content that was sorry, all of the content that was published in the time frame that you're looking at. So in my case, it's the last 3 months. And you have different filters available to make sure that you're looking at best performing, at worst performing, and so on. And that way you have all the needed info to make the changes that you need in your strategy and to optimize things further. Finally, we have a feature that's only available on the Pro plan, and that is the ability to export these analytics into a report that you can download in a PDF format. So in this case, I'm going to be able to add a logo to my report. I'm going to add a short summary explaining what the analytics are for, and then I'm going to select the type of info that I want my analytics to contain, which basically means that I'm just going to download this into a PDF format and send it to whoever needs to see it, whether it's my manager, my client, a colleague, whoever needs to see this data. So we've created content, we've scheduled content, we've looked at content and how it performs once it's published. All that's left for us to do is to make sure that we interact with content, and not with content specifically, but rather with the people who interact with the content. And you can do that in the Engage dashboard. This is the place where you can monitor and reply to any mentions, comments, or DMs across your channels. So you'll see that I have them organized into different boards by comments, mentions, DMs, and some other examples. And then you'll see that each of these columns is considered stream. So you can add streams into your board for each one of your social platforms. In the comments board, I have YouTube, I have Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I can also add X or other platforms like Threads, and so on. If I want to reply to a specific content piece, I can just click on that content and reply to it from here. So I can just type something in and reply. Obviously, I'm not going to reply gibberish, but yeah, if you're on YouTube specifically, you'll see that you have the option to publish or reject certain comments. That is a feature that is available for YouTube, and so you'll be able to use it in here as well. Other platforms might allow you to like the comment directly or reply to the comment in here as well. So it will allow you to just have everything super easy to work with. And that concludes today's session. So if you stuck with us until now, I'm going to re-ask the question and actually see how well do you think you know how well do you think you know SocialBee now? After watching this demo, did anything change in your understanding of SocialBee? Did it get better, or did you have any different expectations of this webinar? And if you did have different expectations, what were those? Feel free to either add it in the chat or to email your feedback over to us. You can email me directly at anka@socialbee.com. And you will be getting a recording of the session later on via email. Now, if you stuck with us until now, it's time for the Q&A session. So if you have questions, add them in the Q&A box. And if you are interested in purchasing SocialBee, there's a code that my colleague Andrea will add into the chat below, and in the email you'll also get it there as well. But basically there's a code that will give you, I believe, 50% off for the first 3 months of your plan, of your subscription with SocialBee. So you can use the code that Andrea added in the chat and work with that. So and by the way, if you haven't started trying out SocialBee, you can definitely do that. There's a 14-day free trial. There's no credit card required, so there's no risk involved whatsoever. So let's go into the questions. I see that there's only a few here. Can I auto set SocialBee to post content at the time that they recommend? You can set SocialBee to post at the times that it recommends, but it doesn't happen automatically. You still need to do it manually. Maybe in the future, however. um, the next question is, can you put replies and comments, replies to comments in an approval queue? At the moment, no. So if you send a comment in the engage module, it will go out directly. But this is a feature that I'm going to pass on as a request to our product team for next year's roadmap and see what happens. How do we set up the comments dashboard thing? Can I get notified by SocialBee when someone posts a comment on my Facebook and Instagram so that I can respond in one place? Yes, yes, and yes. So let me show you how you set things up first. I'm going to go into the Engage dashboard. Let me just quickly delete this so that I can recreate it. So the first thing, how do you create your boards? Well, you click on add a board here and you can just name it whatever you need to. Mine is organized by types of interactions. Yours could be by business, by platform, by interactions, by whatever you want. So I'll just redo the webinar tab here. I'll save it. So now I have an empty board. And what I can do with it is I can actually add streams. So in this case, if I want to add, let's say, X, I can do mentions for X. So I can just bring them in here. I already have them in the mentions tab, so I'm not going to move them. Let's see, threads. And again, we can do mentions. Again, this is in the mentions tab here. So you'll see them here and you're able to see what's going on. Now, because I just tried to move them, it's trying to sync in here. But basically, that's how you create it. And then you can just click on the comments and go ahead and reply to them directly from here. Can you show us how you see the recommended post times? And did you say that there's a simpler way to have SocialBee decide when to post a bunch of posts? Yeah. One thing I forgot to mention about the engage is that you can set up the notifications in the edit profile in the notification settings. Here, you'll see that you have and email me when new comments, mentions, and DMs appear and engage. So you'll be able to toggle that on and get that in here. Now, when it comes to your question, showing you how you can see the recommended post times. I already did that in the analytics menu. There's a few places where you can look at the best times to post depending on what you want to achieve. So page analytics will give you info on when your audience is online here at the bottom. This is specific to Instagram, but other platforms might have it too. In here, you have a heat map of all the posts that, or oh, sorry, the people and when they are online, the people that follow your account and when they are online. So looking at this, the more intense the color, the more people are online. So if I'm looking at Friday, I'm not going to publish anything at 5 a.m. because I can see that this is not when the majority of my audience is online. However, if I look further on Friday, I can see how the online status evolves and that my best chance at getting seen by most people is starting 6 p.m. And to until 10 p.m. for my time zone, which is Bucharest time zone because I'm in Romania. And that actually makes sense because that time is the one that overlaps best with other time zones. So it overlaps with Europe, it overlaps with the States who are just waking up, it overlaps with Australia and Asia who are just winding down and going to bed and so on. So you'll have all of this insight in here. Then in the post analytics, you're also going to be able to see recommendations for each individual type of category and each individual type of post. And finally, the Insights tab, the one that I showed you, will tell you when your audience is getting your content. So you can add all these pieces of info together and make sure that you work with them to determine the best time to post, basically. I hope that answers your question and it didn't provide more confusion. But if it did, you can email me and we can jump on a one-on-one call and maybe see that as well. um, you said analytics were for any members, were for my members. Is there a way to see when people in an entire group are online? Like for instance, all golfers. No, there's not. But you can kind of deduct that based on an audience's behavior. If you're looking at golfers, when's the time when most of them would be golfing? I'm assuming it's probably on their time off, right? So when they are golfing, they're not going to be on social media. When they're not, they might be on social media scrolling through the different posts that you have there. Alternatively, just to give you a few other examples here, you can look at the differences in behavior for, let's say, a stay-at-home new mother, new parent who is currently getting used to being a parent, right? And someone who commutes for a 9-to-5 job. Someone who commutes will be online when they commute in the mornings and in the evenings, on their lunch break maybe, around breakfast maybe, and so on. Alternatively, A new mother might be very busy during those hours, and she might actually scroll through Instagram when she's feeding the baby at night and so on. So you can look at your audience's behavior and determine the general time when they would be online, and then intertwine that with the analytics for your specific group. Okay, really. Really tight on time. So we have time for one or two more questions. My Instagram app analytics do not match with SocialBee's most engagement analytics. However, Facebook and LinkedIn match. Is there any reason why Instagram data might be different? Yes, there is. Instagram um, should, and any platform really, should have up to a 24-hour gap in between those. If there's more than that and the differences are major, please email our team at success@socialbee.com to investigate. But typically, our systems synchronize these analytics every 24 hours or so. So depending on when you connected that Instagram, it might just be a thing of mismatch between the period that you're looking at on Instagram and the period that you're looking at in SocialBee. Because otherwise, SocialBee is getting these analytics from Instagram, so there shouldn't be any discrepancies there. Okay, so I think this ends today's session. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for, oh, I see another question. When making graphics in Canva, what size should we be making our pictures? When you're using Canva outside of SocialBee, my recommendation for Instagram specifically is 4x5 or 3x4. But if you're making them in SocialBee, right now you're only able to do it in a square format. You will be able to change this later on towards the end of the year as we're working on improving this integration. So yeah, again, thank you all for joining today's session. If you have any other question, you can always reach out to us at success@socialbee.com or reach out to me at anka@socialbee.com. You'll get the recording of today's session via email very soon, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time.